In the first part, we had seen that acids and bases are continuously formed in our body in various metabolic pathways. Acids and bases also enter our body from outside in the form of food and beverages. And there is a continuous loss of acids and bases from our body. Sometimes the formation of acids and bases can become abnormal, or entry of acids and bases from outside can become abnormal, or loss of acids and bases from the body can become abnormal. And because of these abnormalities, the pH of the body fluids can change. Normally, the pH is maintained within a very narrow range, and when the pH gets disturbed, when it goes outside the normal range, this can affect a number of biomolecules which are sensitive to changes in pH. Among such biomolecules are proteins. The secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure of proteins depends upon the electrical charges which are present on the amino acid residues, and a change in pH can alter these electrical charges, and this in turn can alter the conformation of the proteins. The normal functioning of proteins depends upon conformation. So if there is a change in conformation, the functioning of the protein can be altered. Among the proteins, one very important class is enzymes. Enzymes catalyze all the biochemical reactions which occur in living organisms. And if there is a change in the functioning of the enzymes, the entire metabolic machinery can be affected. So there is a need to maintain the pH of body fluids within a normal narrow range. We have got a number of mechanisms for regulating the pH of body fluids. The major mechanisms are chemical buffering, respiratory regulation, and renal regulation. In this video, we are going to look at the role of chemical buffers in regulating the pH of body fluids. The chemical buffers are said to be the first line of defense against any threat to acid-base balance. So when the pH of any body fluid tends to change, the chemical buffers act instantly. They act within seconds to minutes, and they prevent a change in pH. The chemical buffers can neutralize acids as well as bases. So if there is an excess of acid, it can be neutralized by the buffer. If there is an excess of bases, it can be neutralized by a buffer. A chemical buffer is a system which resists a change in pH on addition of an acid or a base. So if we add an acid, the buffer will prevent or resist the change in pH. If we add a base, the buffer will resist a change in the pH. And a chemical buffer is usually made up of a weak acid and its alkali salt. Every buffer has got its own pH, and when the buffer is present in a solution, the pH of the solution will be equal to the pH of the buffer. The pH of the buffer can be calculated from an equation which is known as Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. And this equation is pH equals pKa plus log salt upon acid. By salt we mean the concentration of the salt component of the buffer, and by acid we mean the concentration of the acid component of the buffer. In this equation, pKa is negative log of dissociation constant of the acid component of the buffer. Every acid has got a fixed dissociation constant or acid dissociation constant, which is denoted by the letters Ka. The higher the dissociation constant, the stronger will be the acid. And negative log of the dissociation constant is known as pKa. This pKa is also constant for a given acid. In the Anderson-Hasselbalch equation, pKa is constant, and therefore the only variables are the salt component of the buffer and the acid component of the buffer. The pH will depend upon the concentration of salt component divided by the concentration of acid component of the buffer. The major buffers in different body fluids include bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer, phosphate buffer. Proteins also act as buffers, and hemoglobin is also an important buffer in the RBCs. We will first look at the role of bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer in regulating the pH of body fluids. Like other buffers, this buffer is made up of two components, a weak acid and its salt. The weak acid is carbonic acid and its salt is bicarbonate. This buffer is present mainly in extracellular fluids, and since the major cation in extracellular fluids is sodium, the bicarbonate component is generally present in the form of sodium bicarbonate. Quantitatively, bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer is the predominant buffer of the extracellular fluids, especially plasma. Let's see how the two components of this buffer are formed. Carbonic acid is formed from carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide is formed in the tissues from oxidation of carbon atoms, and carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid. This reaction can occur spontaneously, but if carbonic anhydrase is present in the tissues or cells, it accelerates the reaction between water and carbon dioxide, forming carbonic acid. So this is how the first component, the acid component of the buffer, is formed. And carbonic acid then dissociates into H ions and bicarbonate ions. So this is how the second component, that is bicarbonate, is formed. If we calculate the pH of bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer, the pH will depend upon the pKa of the acid component, the concentration of the salt component, and the concentration of the acid component. The pKa of carbonic acid is 6.1, which is a constant. The average concentration of bicarbonate in plasma is 24 milliequivalents per liter or 24 millimoles per liter. The average concentration of carbonic acid in plasma is 1.2 milliequivalents per liter or 1.2 millimoles per liter. So we substitute the pKa and the concentrations of bicarbonate and carbonic acid in the Anderson-Hasselbalch equation. So pH of plasma would equal pKa plus log bicarbonate divided by carbonic acid, that is concentration of bicarbonate divided by the concentration of carbonic acid. As we have seen, the pKa of carbonic acid is 6.1 and this is constant. The concentration of bicarbonate is 24, the concentration of carbonic acid is 1.2. So the ratio is 24 divided by 1.2, that is 20. So we can rewrite the equation pH equals 6.1 plus log 20 and log 20 is 1.3. So pH equals 6.1 plus 1.3, that is 7.4. The only variables in this equation are the concentrations of bicarbonate and carbonic acids. So as long as the ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid is 20:1, the pH will be maintained at 7.4. A buffer is generally most effective near the pKa of the acid component of the buffer. The pKa of carbonic acid is 6.1, which is rather distant from the normal pH of blood, which is 7.4. Therefore, theoretically, this buffer is somewhat ineffective in maintaining the pH of plasma. But it is an important buffer in plasma because this buffer is present in a high concentration in plasma. The two components of the buffer can neutralize acids as well as bases. If a strong acid enters the medium, for example hydrochloric acid, the salt component of the buffer, that is bicarbonate, or in extracellular fluids it is sodium bicarbonate. So sodium bicarbonate will react with hydrochloric acid. The products will be carbonic acid and sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is not going to affect the pH. It is the carbonic acid which will affect the pH. But carbonic acid is a much weaker acid as compared to hydrochloric acid. So if we add, for example, 100 molecules of hydrochloric acid into the medium, almost all the molecules will dissociate and 100 hydrogen ions will be formed. But when 100 molecules of hydrochloric acid are converted into 100 molecules of carbonic acid, very few molecules of carbonic acid will dissociate and therefore the hydrogen ion concentration will rise only minimally. So this conversion of strong acid into a weak acid minimizes the change in pH. If a strong base is added to the medium, for example sodium hydroxide, the acid component of the buffer will react with the strong base. In this case, the acid component is carbonic acid. So, carbonic acid will react with sodium hydroxide. The products will be sodium bicarbonate and water. Water will not affect the pH. And sodium bicarbonate is a very weak base. So, a strong base, sodium hydroxide, has been converted into a weak base, sodium bicarbonate. And therefore, change in pH would be minimal. In this way, the two components of the buffer resist a change in pH upon addition of acids as well as bases. To calculate the pH, we have to know the concentration of carbonic acid and bicarbonate. Measuring the concentration of carbonic acid is rather difficult, but measuring PCO2, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, is easier. And concentration of carbonic acid can be calculated if we know the PCO2. By multiplying PCO2 by a constant, we can find out the concentration of carbonic acid. The constant depends upon the nature of the solvent and the temperature. For plasma at 37 degrees centigrade, the constant is 0.0301, or we can say approximately 0.03. So if we multiply PCO2 by 0.03, we can get the concentration of carbonic acid. So in the equation for calculating pH, this carbonic acid concentration can be replaced by PCO2 multiplied by 0.03. The second chemical buffer is phosphate buffer. Phosphate is present in our body in the form of organic phosphate and inorganic phosphate. Phosphate buffer is formed from inorganic phosphate. Inorganic phosphate can be present in the form of two ions, dihydrogen phosphate and monohydrogen phosphate. Dihydrogen phosphate is a monovalent anion and monohydrogen phosphate is a divalent anion. And these two anions constitute the phosphate buffer. Dihydrogen phosphate or H2PO4 is a weak acid because it can donate a proton. So this is the acid component of the buffer. And when dihydrogen phosphate releases a proton, it is converted into monohydrogen phosphate. Monohydrogen phosphate is a base because it can accept a proton. So this monohydrogen phosphate is the salt component of the buffer. So these two, dihydrogen phosphate and monohydrogen phosphate, constitute the phosphate buffer. In extracellular fluids, the major cation is sodium. So dihydrogen phosphate is generally present in the form of sodium dihydrogen phosphate, and monohydrogen phosphate is present as sodium monohydrogen phosphate. In intracellular fluids, these will be associated with potassium ions because the concentration of potassium is very high in intracellular fluids. Out of these two components of phosphate buffer, monohydrogen phosphate, which is the salt component, can react with strong acids, an acid like hydrochloric acid. So monohydrogen phosphate reacts with hydrochloric acid to form sodium chloride and dihydrogen phosphate. Sodium chloride is neutral and dihydrogen phosphate is a weak acid. So a strong acid, hydrochloric acid, is converted into a weak acid, dihydrogen phosphate, and therefore the change in pH will be minimal. The acid component of the buffer, that is dihydrogen phosphate, can react with strong bases like sodium hydroxide. So this NaH2PO4, sodium dihydrogen phosphate, can react with sodium hydroxide forming water and sodium monohydrogen phosphate. Sodium monohydrogen phosphate is a weak base. So a strong base NaOH is converted into a weak base, and therefore the change in pH will be minimal. In this way, the two components of the buffer can minimize change in pH upon addition of acids as well as bases. If we want to calculate the pH of a fluid containing phosphate buffer, we must know the pKa of the acid component. The acid component is dihydrogen phosphate, and we must know the ratio of monohydrogen phosphate concentration to dihydrogen phosphate concentration. The pKa of dihydrogen phosphate is 6.8. The ratio of concentration of monohydrogen phosphate to the concentration of dihydrogen phosphate in plasma is 4:1. So we substitute these values into the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So the pH will equal pKa of dihydrogen phosphate plus log the concentration of monohydrogen phosphate divided by the concentration of dihydrogen phosphate, or the ratio of the concentrations of monohydrogen phosphate and dihydrogen phosphate. The pKa of dihydrogen phosphate is 6.8. The ratio of monohydrogen phosphate concentration to dihydrogen phosphate concentration is 4. So it is log 4. Log 4 is 0.6. So pH will equal 6.8 plus 0.6, or the pH will equal 7.4. The pH depends upon the ratio of concentration of monohydrogen phosphate to the concentration of dihydrogen phosphate. So as long as the ratio is 4:1, the pH will be maintained at 7.4. The concentration of inorganic phosphate in extracellular fluids is rather low, but still phosphate buffer is an effective buffer because the pKa of the acid component is close to 7.4. Proteins are made up of amino acids. Each amino acid has got at least one acidic group and at least one basic group. So it is amphoteric in nature. The proteins are also amphoteric. They may have a number of acidic groups and a number of basic groups. The acidic groups can neutralize bases. The basic groups can neutralize acids. Whether a protein will behave as an acid or a base depends upon the medium in which the protein is kept. If the medium is acidic, the protein will behave as a base and it will neutralize acids. If a protein is put in a basic medium, it will act as an acid and it will neutralize bases. So a single protein molecule can act as an acid as well as a base. It can neutralize acids as well as bases. The proteins are made up of different amino acids, and different amino acids have different pKa values. Those amino acids which have pKa values close to 7.4 are more effective in buffering. And among the various amino acids present in proteins, histidine has got a pKa which is very close to 7.4. So proteins which have more histidine residues are more effective buffers. The proteins are present in a fairly high concentration in intracellular fluid, followed by plasma. But other fluids have a very low protein content, and therefore the buffering action of proteins is exerted mainly in intracellular fluid and in plasma. Hemoglobin is also a protein, and it is present only in RBCs. The main function of hemoglobin is to transport gases. It transports oxygen from lungs to tissues, and it transports carbon dioxide from tissues to lungs. But during this process of transporting gases, hemoglobin also acts as a buffer. Carbon dioxide is produced continuously in tissues during various oxidative reactions. The carbon atoms of carbohydrates, lipids, and even amino acids are oxidized to carbon dioxide. So there is a massive production of carbon dioxide in the tissues. This carbon dioxide can react with water to form carbonic acid. This reaction can occur spontaneously, but it is accelerated by carbonic anhydrase. And the carbonic acid which is produced in the tissues can disturb the pH of the body fluids. But hemoglobin prevents a change in pH by buffering the huge amount of carbonic acid which is produced continuously in the tissues from carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide which is produced in the tissues diffuses into RBCs when blood circulates through the tissues. RBCs contain carbonic anhydrase. So in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid, and carbonic acid then dissociates into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. And it is the hydrogen ions which can disturb the pH. But hemoglobin takes up the hydrogen ions. It is converted into reduced hemoglobin, and this addition of hydrogen ions to hemoglobin prevents a change in pH. When blood circulates through the tissues, the carbon dioxide which is formed in the tissues diffuses into RBCs. This carbon dioxide reacts with water. The reaction is catalyzed by carbonic anhydrase and carbonic acid is formed. This carbonic acid dissociates into bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. Bicarbonate ions diffuse out of the RBC and they are replaced by chloride ions. Chloride ions enter the RBC to maintain electrical neutrality. The hydrogen ion which is released from carbonic acid reacts with hemoglobin. This hemoglobin has brought oxygen from the lungs. It is oxygenated hemoglobin. And since the intracellular fluid is rich in potassium, some potassium ions are also bound to this hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is present in the form of KHBO2, which is oxygenated hemoglobin. When hydrogen ions react with KHBO2, the potassium ions are released and they are replaced by hydrogen ions. So hydrogen ions are added to hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is converted into reduced hemoglobin, and at the same time it releases oxygen which diffuses out of RBCs into the tissues. When the blood reaches the lungs, these processes are reversed. Partial pressure of oxygen is very high in lungs, so oxygen diffuses into the RBCs. It reacts with reduced hemoglobin and also with the potassium ions which are present in the RBC. So potassium ions are added to hemoglobin, oxygen is also added to hemoglobin, and hydrogen ions are released. So reduced hemoglobin is converted into oxyhemoglobin, and the hydrogen ions which are released react with bicarbonate ions to form carbonic acid. Carbonic acid breaks up into water and carbon dioxide diffuses out of the RBC. So in this way, during the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide between lungs and tissues, hemoglobin binds a large number of hydrogen ions and prevents a change in pH. So pH is not disturbed because hemoglobin binds or takes up the hydrogen ions which are released from carbonic acid. And hemoglobin is said to be responsible for 60% of the buffering capacity of the blood. So this is how the chemical buffers act instantly and prevents a change in pH when acids are added to any fluid or bases are added to any fluid. We will look at the role of respiratory mechanism and the renal mechanism in the next video. Thank you.